Hey, what's going on, you guys? We're back for Forgiven AF podcast. Man, I'm so excited about this episode, y'all, for a few reasons. Check this out, though. Yes. Isn't that cool? I'm like still like kind of blown away. This is the first copy, this one right here, um, that came in the mail that I got to the house. So like it's still kind of like surreal, to be honest with you. Or yeah, to be honest with you. But hey, check this out. The boys from the nonprofit, we are having a brunch, a graduation brunch. So all the boys who graduated school either last year or this year, we're gonna have a brunch with them at El Primo's in Mansfield. We're gonna have, and it's gonna be cool. We're gonna celebrate the graduation. We have a bunch of people coming. Um, we're really excited about it. We're gonna do raffles, and we're gonna kind of turn it into a fundraising opportunity. And we're just excited. This will be the first time we do it. So it's gonna be our first annual graduation brunch, and then we'll do it every week after that. So that's kind of a cool thing. And I'm trying to think of what else. I'm excited. I got my buddy Alex on the show today. This will be a good episode. Let me tell you real quick how we met. So I think, and now I'm trying to like think about it. And you had seen the show, right?
Yes, I've seen it quite a few times
Is that what it
actually.
was? So somehow he had come across the show, and this is why this is so crazy. And then he reached out to me, um, I don't know if it was social media or something. It might have been on Instagram.
No, yeah, your number was
Yeah, that's cool.
somewhere on social media, and I had watched it so many times, and I was like, man, I'm gonna just reach out to this guy and just to get to know him a little
That actually makes me feel really good.
bit. Yeah,
That's cool. Like that makes me feel really cool. Good. And so he called me and we talked for like it had to been like 45 minutes. It
it
was
was a
like
while.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a while.
the first time we ever talked, and we just kind of like clicked, and it was really cool because there was so many. Every time one of us would say something, the other one was like, "Bro, me too, me too, me too." Like we had so much in common. Alex also owns a roofing company called Invoke Roofing. It's just it's crazy how we have a lot of roofing company owners that have been on the show and they come on the show. It's not like set up on purpose, but it is a great career for anybody getting out of prison or someone that has a background, because no one has ever said to me before, "Do you have a felony?" Before I've inspected their roof. Has anyone ever asked you that?
No,
It's kind of funny,
yeah,
right? So then me and Alex got together. We had lunch a couple of times. Turns out he knew my wife from the past.
yes,
So that was kind of a crazy story. I was like, dang, and the first time you always hear that, anytime any guy ever tells me like, hey, I knew your wife, you're like, oh,
How do you know her?
you know what I mean, right? You get that like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be friends, dude.
Yeah,
But no, it was nothing like that. So it was safe. Um, and then as we've gotten to know each other over the past few months, 3 months or so,
mhm.
I knew that I wanted to have him on the show because his story is awesome. I'm excited for him to be able to share it with you. A lot of similarities to my story, a lot of similarities to just that could help anybody who's trying to overcome kind of whether it doesn't just have to be incarceration. It's just kind of people who have kind of felt down and out, you know what I mean? Or have put themselves through a different situation. But then he invited me to go to this men's group. Would you call it a men's group?
It's a little bit more than a men's group.
Discipleship group?
Um, you know what? It, Obviously, for the sake of the conversation, it is a men's group, but it's more driven towards authenticity. It's raw and uncut.
It's a men's leadership group, faith-based men's leadership group. That's what I would call it. With a vulnerable, kind
Yes,
of like
yes,
authenticity to it. And it's led by his business coach, for lack of a better, I don't know if you want to call it something different, Preston Woody, who is a cool segue because in a couple weeks he's going to come be on the show, and I'm excited for that too, because according to everyone that I've ever heard speak on the guy and what I've seen of him, he's got a lot of wisdom. I think he comes from a pastoral kind of a role, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let him expand on that, but yeah, he does have a ministry background.
See, and I think that that's really cool. I think when you can combine ministry and business and life coaching in together, you kind of get the best of both worlds, and you're not, you know what I mean? You know that your advice is coming from something grounded spiritually and not of the world. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So I think that's pretty cool. Um, and I think that's really about it. So I'm excited for you guys to learn and to meet my friend Alex. Alex, if you could just kind of take over, maybe let us know, where you're from, what your upbringing was like, just kind of family dynamics,
Of course, yeah. Hey, Shawn, thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking the time to make this happen and hold space. I'm gonna just jump out the gate and be vulnerable. Getting my life story down on paper. I've been out since 2014. And so subconsciously, I told myself that there's things that I didn't ever want to remember. I actually wanted to forget. So you guys are going to see me every once in a while take a glance, down at my iPad, not because it's scripted, but because I want to be so intentional and so authentic, so that I talk about things that I've never talked about publicly, knowing that there's guys behind the walls that are going to hear this. So,
That's good, and it makes sense.
so
And let me tell you something real quick before he takes off. Alex is Alex is very structured and organized, and he said he hasn't always been this way. But let me tell you, and this is just funny because I'm gonna tell you about last night. He sends me a message. He's like, "Hey, bro, so like." Normally, I give people the outline of my podcast, right? Like, I'm like, hey, this is what we'll do. So, yesterday, he sends me this PDF and I open it, and it's like, I want to exaggerate, but it's only like 3 or 4 pages long, and it's got every minute of our podcast set up to what we're. And I was like, "Hey, bro, like it's just funny. It just
yeah,
shows you the way his
no,
brain is organized and structured. But
it,
it's a good
I didn't
asset.
used to be like that. If anything, not to get too far off topic, there was an ID unit. It was a disciplinary unit, and I wasn't in your traditional cell. It was a cubicle, and if you weren't on point, and when I say keep your cell clean, because things would happen to just land in your cubicle,
Yeah,
that wasn't yours. If the COs would come in,
yeah.
so that I looked back and did an audit and remembered that was kind of where it all started for me. Is anytime I left my house,
Everything was just perfect.
everything was in order. So that way, when I got home, took off my shoes, and I called it home. It was home to me. I knew that if someone was in my house, because I was on a very, dangerous unit. And so it was a safety precaution. It was a survival mechanism for me.
Just of getting organized and being
Staying
structured like that.
organized. So this whole saying it's thrown out quite often, but it's real. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And so
Yeah.
it's just my way of just living out of boxes. And I'm not saying it's good, but for me, it just promotes an atmosphere of peace, knowing, hey, I know kind of where everything's at and where it's supposed to be. But I get it. You're not the only one. You're in good company.
It's
It's
so
a
good.
lot.
That made me just, and I'll let you go on your story after this. It made me just realize how cool it would be to do like an episode or a book on life lessons I learned in prison, like things that
Dude,
you learn in prison that you actually carry. Because there's a lot of things that I learned in prison that I carry out into my everyday life now.
likewise.
You know what I mean? So that would kind of be a cool episode or a cool book. Like,
Season 2.
yeah, season 2. Cool. Okay, now for real this time.
Um, so I mean, I had a good childhood. I had parents that loved me. I had a dad that worked really, really hard to provide for me. Um, Sometimes he worked so hard he wasn't home all the time, and he also wasn't present. And so, for the most part, I don't, I don't want to stay here very long, but I do want to provide context what life was like for me growing up, as a child. Um, so again, I had a dad that worked really hard. He did his best with what he could, how he knew how to. Uh, when I was about 3 or 4, this is kind of where it all began to kind of unravel for me and my family. I was sexually abused as a kid, and there's no blueprint to kind of navigate that.
No.
Even for, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I can, and when I put myself in a situation like that as a father, you know, let's be honest, we would probably do a lot of things, right? So my dad and my parents navigated that part of my life as best they knew how to. But here's what happened. You know, the Bible in the book of Songs, it says to not waken to love before it's time. And the fact that I was so little, I think I was around 3 years old, where I was sexually abused, where eventually it takes you down this path if it's not dealt with correctly from a spiritual standpoint, where I got into porn, uh, lost my virginity at a very, very young age, ended up getting the drugs. And, I didn't just wake up one day and ruin my life. I drifted into that part of my life one decision at a time.
Yeah.
But it came, unfortunately, in an area of my life where I had no control. Like, I couldn't control what happened to me. I was 3 years old. So, unfortunately, just the real, raw, and uncut aspect of it is that because of what happened to me when I was so young, eventually later on in life, it came out in different ways, and it came out through lust and pornography, losing my virginity at a very young age, and then starting to, explore drugs and alcohol and women.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was tough.
I mean, it's not gonna be the first or second or third time that people have heard that on this podcast either, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, it's okay to be open with that, and that's one of the
yeah,
things that I want people okay, you realize that it happens to, like, 1 in 6, boys or
yeah. It's
abused that way. It's
crazy.
the statistic's crazy, and then, it's funny you said that because I did not realize anything about what had happened to me when I was younger until I went through RDAP, residential drug abuse program, and I had intensive counseling. And you know what I mean? So like I didn't even
Yeah,
realize that a lot of our behaviors can stem from things that trauma that happened to
there's
us
a
as
lot of
kids.
layers to it, man.
And I didn't even know that. Like I always just kept it inside because I felt guilty because mine was a girl babysitter, and then so I thought it was my fault that at
Yeah,
7, 8 years old I'm doing things that are, you know what I
there's a
mean?
lot of layers to it, man. And just to get into um, make this fun, it's just part of how I ended up becoming so wired is just because of the things that I'm always doing an audit on my decisions now, and sometimes it's not always good, but it's just I want to be so intentional with the life I live now because I lived a life where it just was it's deep down it's not what I wanted to do.
When would
And
you say you started getting in trouble?
um it started well, high school. I'd say I was a freshman, maybe even I'm sorry, like I started getting into fights my junior high year. Yeah, junior high. And I was bullied, I was picked on, I was fighting. I was always in the principal's office, tried the whole, football sports thing, but it started becoming more real in high school because it was in high school when I caught this charge.
Your charge that you went to prison for happened in high school?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, like most young men in high school are trying to fit in, right? They want to be on the football team. They want to play varsity. They want to start. They want the jacket. They want the status. They want to date the cheerleader, right? They wanna they wanna fit in, and so I did everything I could to fit in, but I just wasn't fitting in, and so um, there was a there was an individual. So I ended up transferring schools to avoid this person, um, and I ended up transferring to a different school where I began to play the sport. Life began to make more sense now. I was fitting in. I liked how it felt and how I was experiencing high school, the friends, so much so that going into my senior year, um, I went to Trinity High School. So going into my senior year, I kind of I moved out on my own. I was out on my own, by the way, uh, and so it was a roommate. It was my friend. We kind of just showed up to a party that we heard about, and it just so happened to be this individual that I had issues with, and and let's just say it didn't end well. And more than one person got involved. There was weapons involved, alcohol involved, drugs involved. It was a very large party, and so that it was July of '05, where that night I walked away with an aggravated assault charge with a deadly weapon. And
And that first charge, you went to prison for that, or was
yeah,
that the first
so
time you got in trouble?
yeah, well, I mean, I had a like criminal mischief.
No,
Yeah,
that's the first
yeah,
time.
but that's
Did they and they
the
charged you as an adult?
they did. Yeah, but I fought it. I fought it until I was almost 21.
And that hurts you too, because when you fight it and then you lose, then you
Right.
kind of lose all your
So I
options
ended
of
up going
leniency.
to I ended up going to uh, trial by judge with an open plea.
And then how much time did they give you?
They were trying to push 20 years, man.
For your first time in trouble over a fight?
20 years they were trying. They were pushing 20 years the majority of the time.
So how much time did you get?
6 years,
What did you do on that?
most of it.
Did you know when you went to prison that like, because at that young of an age, I wonder if I would have been just more like spiteful or if I would have been like, okay, now I'm trying to get my life together. Like, did you spend your time in prison thinking to yourself like, okay, how do I better myself through this?
No,
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
absolutely not. That didn't come until later. Yeah, if anything, I was just trying to understand what's next. Like, I'm gonna be like, I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was 20 years old.
So you went from like 20 to 25 in prison?
Yeah.
That's tough years, and
I
that's a
didn't
lot of like
Yeah,
building your
yeah.
foundation years you
I
missed.
was, 27 when I got out, but it's not easy to explain. So I was charged in April of 2008, caught the charge in '05, July of '05, found guilty in '08, April of '08, immediately filed for an appeal. So they kept me in county for about 180 days. And it's very easy to get wrapped into, what everyone's saying. Oh, what are you in here for? And, you're so eager to know like what all this looks like. So you start inviting people into your story and what's happening. And the more that I did that, the more they're like, oh, you ain't going nowhere. You're going to be in county for 6 years. And I'm like, nah. They're like, yeah. And so this is kind of where the story starts to set the stage. There was someone in there that was conducting a Bible study. Eventually, I ended up going to his Bible study, so much so that the very first scripture that I actually read in the Bible was in Romans chapter 5, verse 3. And it talks about the trials and tribulations and trusting God through the process of these trials. And let's just say I didn't really receive that very well. But as that began to kind of marinate in me, I eventually had my first encounter with the Lord. So I got out on what's called an appeal bond. So they let me out back into the free world with a felony, with the hopes that I would get a retrial. And that's actually when I met my wife.
Okay, so you were out on bond
I
when
was
you met
out
her?
on bond, and I didn't tell anyone. Yeah, the more serious her and I got, I eventually told her,
Yeah.
but I didn't tell anyone. But here's the caveat to that, is that when I got out, that the experience I had and the encounter I had was so real that deep down, I really wanted to believe that I could live out what I was experiencing and what I was living. But unfortunately, like it talks about in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it didn't fall on good ground. It didn't fall on good ground. And so even though I was trying, I just couldn't earn or perform enough a way to figure out how to walk out this life as a Christian.
Yeah.
And so eventually,
It doesn't have to take immediately anyway. That's not what the gospel doesn't say, that you just
Correct.
become perfect when you hear it.
Correct.
It's first, it's got to be watered, and it's progressive sanctification. You're
Yeah,
going to get
correct.
better and better. So something, there was something that in that Bible study, that initial Bible study.
Yeah,
Did you grow up in church?
no.
Okay. So then
Well, I grew up Catholic, so
that
that says anything.
that almost pushes people away sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah. Because the rules and the strictness
Correct.
and so that was the first time you kind of understood or had like especially someone other than your parents talking to you about God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is kind of different.
So to kind of inject this, so getting out of prison and becoming free were not the same thing for me.
Yeah.
And even though technically I was out, I ended up having to go back in because I lost the appeal. And that in itself is where it started becoming really real for me.
Who was fighting so hard against you in this whole court thing? Was it the kid's parents?
No,
Like someone was pushing with some sort of.
Well, they were a part of it, but the state picked up my charge.
Because I can't imagine a first time freaking assault charge.
I caught it in Colleyville, man. Of all
Is
places.
that like a real uppity?
Yeah, of all places, that's an area where I don't recommend getting in trouble, because they don't see a lot of this kind of crime, and so they were trying to make an example out of me.
Yeah, it sounds like it, because it sounds almost like they had like pull in the area. You know what I mean?
They did, yeah,
like
and they were well connected.
Yeah, that's what.
The family, and so Look, when I look back, it was God ordained. Like, I know it sounds crazy.
No, it doesn't. Prison saved my life. So, like,
Looking
doesn't
back,
sound crazy to me at all.
so I had to go through that, man. I
Okay,
had
so
to.
let me set the stage of where we're at. So you got in trouble, you got in a fight. Couple years later, you finally got the first trial. You lost, went to jail for a little bit, kind of had your first encounter with the Lord, got out on bond, met your wife, continued to fight your case, lost the case, went back to prison. Did you get married before you went back, or were you guys at the time just
No, we
friends,
were.
just dating?
So it happened fast, man. I was only about a year, and when I say I was trying to live out what I was reading, I came from the entertainment industry. That's what I did for a living, was the nightlife. That's how I made my money. Was going out and partying and having fun, and that's how I made money. And so that's where I met my wife, and we were having fun. And but ultimately, the more time that we spent together, we realized how much we were falling for each other. And so when I say it happened fast, it happened fast. I was only about a year, but the more serious we got, and the more time that we spent together, and our families were getting involved.
Did you tell her that there was a chance like you were gonna have to go back to
Eventually,
prison?
yes, and she played it off like, "Yeah, you're gonna be fine. You're like it'll work itself out," and it didn't.
So when it did, when crap hit the fan and you like, I lost this, I got to get back to.
I told
Did you
her
guys have a conversation? She was like, well, I'll be here for you when you get
we
out,
had
or
to because we found out she was pregnant.
ah,
Yeah,
there's the turn in
yeah,
the.
we had to because we found out we were pregnant, and
Were you scared about that situation? Like,
I had a lot of things I was scared about.
so you went to prison about within a year of your kid being born, or sometime around that, or were you in prison when the kid was born?
I was in prison when my son was born.
See,
That's what led me to surrendering my life over to Christ, and
yeah,
I'll
that's
save that
good.
for the later on the story. But so yeah, it was November. I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas of 2000. I can remember I got out in '08. It was November or Christmas of '09, somewhere around there.
When you don't know your son's birthday?
No, I'm talking about when I went back in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course I know my son's birthday. Yeah, so my son's birthday is August 22nd,
Okay, so that
2010. But when I turned myself in, because that's what I said I was going to do, I was like, I got
yeah.
to turn myself in.
Oh, you were on the run for a little bit.
No, I immediately when I found out, a few months later, I turned myself in,
Yeah.
and it was with the intention so I can hurry up, do my time, and get back out. And I had to have, like, every guy at some point, I believe, has this kind of conversation with their girl, whether they're married or not. And we knew that we were engaged. We wanted to get married, but I still had to have the conversation with her. I was like, "Listen, I'm going in for a long time. Like, I want you to be happy.
I had the same
Yeah,
conversation.
I want you to move on with your life if you find someone."
My wife just did it. She took it seriously.
well, well, my wife's, my fiance at the time, she said yes, but the reality set in, and our son was born, and she ended up filing for divorce. And again, that's where life got really real,
Yeah,
for me, is when she filed for divorce, and I found out, what it was like to go through that.
it's
It
hard.
sucked.
I was in prison, calling my wife every night, and got to the point where she called me by some other guy's name, and I was like, "Oh, okay, what?" And at that point, I was like, "You know what? I need to do this time by myself."
Yeah,
Like sometimes it's better than sitting there stressing out what your girl's doing.
it's a real thing, dude, and let's just stay there. Let's park there for a second. Yeah, you do not want to have any emotional ties, because in prison, one, it's a survival thing at some point, and you get to a point where emotional pain is much harder than physical pain.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And so knowing that you have a girl out there that isn't holding you down, it's a whole other layer to it. Not to mention knowing that you're about to be a father and you have a son
Yeah.
that's being born while you're locked up too, was a whole other, you know,
One of the things that the hardest thing I dealt with when it comes to that situation was when my wife had she was actually always my wife. We never got divorced till I got out, but a new boyfriend, and he was raising my son.
bro.
That used to eat me up. I would sit there. That was harder for me. But check this out. That was the hardest thing for me, was another guy being around my son all the time. But I remember talking to this dude. and talking to my mom about this, and like it was eating me up. Mom, I don't know what to do. And this guy, this older dude, he kept telling me, "Hey, Shawn, like you should be thankful that that your son's not just being raised by a bunch of women right now, that he actually has a guy that he can see how, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And it changed my whole perspective. I called that dude the next day, or I called her and I was like, "Hey, let me talk to," his name was Scott, dude, Whitey. He was, and I called him and said, "Let me talk to Scott." And I said, "Scott, man, I know that I've kind of been like, you've heard me complaining about this." I said, "But I want to thank you, bro. Like, I want to say thank you so much because I hear that you take care of my son. I hear that you've been, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And then it just changed everything for me, and it just gave me like a peace about it.
Yeah.
But it was hard to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It was really hard to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get it. You get it. I'm sure a lot of guys inside understand and get it too. So,
Yeah. Okay, so now in prison, right? Let's get through prison until you getting out of prison.
yeah.
Was there anything in prison that you felt was impactful or worth mentioning?
Man, see, this is where, I kind of geeked out. Remember that little PDF document I sent to you? There's a lot that I want to unpack, but it wasn't until I got to, I guess, what they call your ID unit. I landed on Gib Lewis, and at the time, I don't know what it's like now, but at the time, it was a disciplinary unit. It's where they sent the troublemakers, but it was also where they housed. They had high security there. Is where they housed.
You would have been high security being that young in a violent charge. Those two things would have put your security points high.
Yeah, no, it did. It's when listen, but compared to the guys that was on that unit, dude, I mean, you had guys doing life 45, 55, 65, 75 years,
Yeah.
and they're rolling with some heavy hitters as far as the gangs goes, and so that's the area I didn't understand. Yes, I get it. On paper, I had a dangerous crime, and I was young, and there was a lot of variables of why I was on that unit,
Yeah.
but where it got real is, let me throttle down. Where it got real is now you're in a position where you have to ask yourself, okay, am I joining a gang or am I going to roll this thing out solo? And if you choose to roll it out solo, just know that you're living your time like under a magnifying glass. They're watching you.
The crazy thing is nowadays deciding I'm going to do it solo is almost the same thing as joining a gang. You're just joining the
That's
independent
true,
solo
yeah.
gang. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
the independents roll together.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of,
It was, I don't know. Again, I don't know what it's like now. I haven't gone in a long time, but when I was in, it was very segregated. You had the Mexicans, you had the
it's
blacks, you had
still,
the whites.
that's
Dude.
just prison. Yeah. I
And
mean, it's been
so-
10 years for me too, but that's the way it was. Every prison I was in was extremely segregated.
Yeah. And I knew that I didn't want to join a gang because, dude, I'm 6 years. Everyone on the road I was in had 20 years and up.
Yeah.
And so I almost don't want to like talk about it because I'm like,
Yeah, you don't want to mention it because
Nah.
people are like, shut up with your little
Yeah,
time. I'll do
yeah,
that on
yeah.
the toilet.
so that's true. That's exactly how they said it
I
too.
know.
And so, yeah, so I don't know, to answer your question, is I was there for over 2 years. I'd say looking back, that's the time that I did time where I learned the most, how to do life and how to be intentional. That to answer your question earlier, that is where I made a choice that I was like, all right, I want to leave here different.
Yeah.
I want to leave here knowing that I'm walking back into society where I have a son now, and whether or not his mom and I ever get back together, I have a son.
Yeah.
And so I knew that when I got out, because I didn't, I didn't have a father me the way that I'm learning how to be a father to my son right now. And so I knew that when I got out, I wanted to father my son and be the kind of dad to my son that I didn't have for me.
That's good. What's really cool about that is you can learn the same lesson from two different situations, right? Because in my situation, I had an amazing father I couldn't have asked for a better dad, right? He did what he said he was going to do. He was disciplined. He was a great, loving father. He did everything. He was very present. He was amazing, right? And that made me want to be the same father to my son.
Mhm.
Your situation was you didn't have that,
No.
and therefore, but that made you realize that you wanted to be the present, loving
Yeah.
father. It's kind of weird how the same lesson can come from two different
Yeah,
aspects.
and
you know?
as it should, you can learn from all this, dude. all of it. If you choose to, if you
Yeah.
really want to take a look at your situation and own up to it, get real with it, be honest with yourself. You're here for a reason. And for me personally, the more I sat with that, eventually it led to me giving my life to Christ. But it came at a cost, man. Because when I found out, when I found, I was at church when the captain and the chaplain came and stopped church, and they said, "Is there an Alex Loredo here?" And they kind of stopped church and they said, "Congratulations, son, you're a father." And so, um, you you uh, you feel a lot in prison because you get to a point where you're so removed and so detached.
Yeah.
It's moments like that where you attach to a second to that situation. So for a second, I'm like, this is real now. I'm a dad. And so uh, 6 months later is when my wife filed for divorce. All right. So this is just for context. This is now 2010. I've been in for a little over a year now, roughly. And I'm on an actual ID unit doing real time with real dudes with serious crimes. And remember that time, remember the emotional pain started becoming pretty challenging and pretty painful. And when I found out, more about my ex-wife's lifestyle, um, that's where it kind of began to become so real that I began to fight more. I began to do the drugs inside. That is where I was like, I was pretty much inside done with God. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. If I'm going to be very, very honest, I'm like, F this. I'm out. I didn't join no gang, but I made my time much easier
Yeah.
from that point forward. The tattoos, the drugs, the gambling, the fun. I wanted to do my time easy. The whole saying, like, you do the time, don't let the time you do you. That is what happened. But the more, again, remember, I didn't ruin my life just right away. It was one decision at a time. And eventually I got into a fight and got a hold of some drugs and a cell phone and even called my ex-wife on the cell phone. And she owned up to the things that I was hearing. And that was a game changer for me. And I actually ended up in solitary shortly after. And doing time in solitary is where I basically came to the end of myself. So if that answers your question, was there anything about the time that it really impacted you? It was eventually doing time in solitary.
Yeah, that I can't. I never had to do that. Thank God. That I don't know. That would be really rough. But I met a lot of men who found the Lord and really like in solitary confinement. I know multiple men that that's kind of happened to them.
That's right. And again, for our son, it, my wife and everything I went through isn't what led me to Christ. It was the idea of fatherhood for me.
Yeah.
My son saved my life, and I'll add it. I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but here's what I'll say: is the time that I spent in solitary. One, solitary showed me that the loudest prison was not the cell; it was what was happening inside of me. So everything that I was experiencing inside of prison, along with everything that I experienced in life, solitary basically made it so much louder. And eventually I had to deal with,
Because when you remove all the distractions of life that keep you from thinking about the things
yeah,
that you're struggling with,
yeah,
the distraction of everyday life can kind of remove those because you're temporarily thinking about
yeah,
other things. But the second you went to solitary, you had nothing to think about but
no,
those struggles.
right.
So you got two things that are either going to come. Sorry to keep
No,
interrupting.
that's okay.
You have two things that are going to happen. You're either going to fall into self pity and feel sorry for yourself and go all in that way, or you got to figure out, okay, how do I move forward and how
Yeah.
do I make this
How
better?
do I navigate this? And
Yeah.
so, the only thing that, I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but what I chose to is I got a really good rhythm. And so this is kind of where my OCD starts happening is I knew that, so I didn't have access to daylight. The way that I told time was chow time. Breakfast was around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Lunch was between 10 and 12. Last chow was about 4 or 5. So I knew after last chow, I literally had 12 hours of complete silence, longest 12 hours of my life. and I was in solitary for almost 6 months. And so I had to find a really good rhythm. Obviously, you can only do so many push-ups and
Yeah.
so many sit-ups, and so I got into the Word. I got into the Word, and I would intentionally look for anything. And I didn't even go to the back to find anything I could find that had anything about Scripture about the mind. You know, to elaborate, it says, "As a man thinketh, so is he."
Mhm.
In Romans chapter 12, verse 2, it says, "Not conform to the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." There's a lot in there. If you really start reading the Bible, and even more so reading out loud, faith comes from hearing, and by hearing the Word of God, that thing started. Like, it starts coming alive for you. So, as crazy as it may sound, let's transition from the word solitary. I entered into a position of solitude where God had me exactly where He needed me,
Yeah.
so that He can get a hold of me. And not only did He get a hold of me, it was where I dealt with my pain of not being being a father. And so where God got a hold of me is like, this is how real I got raw and uncut with God. I was like, how could you give me a father? How could you give me a son? But yet I don't even know how to be a father yet. And before I could even finish that sentence, based on what I was already reading and experiencing, was He spoke to my heart and said, before you can become a father, you must become my son
Must become a
first.
son. Yeah.
So that is where, I mean, let's pull over there for a second. Like, understanding the true concept of who you are as a son in Christ, that is where it started for me. I didn't understand sonship, dude.
You know why? Because you didn't have the father. I mean, you had a father, don't get me wrong, but you didn't. I don't know. People who don't, let's say people who don't have a father around whatsoever, and then all of a sudden, people are talking like, God's the father, God's the father. He's like a father to you. They're like, they can't make that correlation because they didn't have the loving father.
Yeah.
When they say that to me, God's like the father, I can think of, oh, wow, like my dad, cool, but on a bigger scale, like I can get that.
Yeah.
But most people, or a lot of people, they can't make that
Dude,
correlation.
and I still have my moments where I'm challenged in realizing where I'm operating out of an orphan spirit. It's a real thing, dude. Like, struggling with your identity, until you get to a point where you realize, through forgiving yourself, through forgiving others, through walking out what a relationship looks like with Christ and not it being religious.
Yeah.
And because here's the three things, man. And I learned this with Preston, is unless you let God redeem your past, every man's going to either be hiding it, performing because of it, or returning back to it. At some point, you're doing either one of those or all three, until you get to a point where you realize, I'm really loved and I'm really a son. And then you begin to position yourself based on how He loves you, and you receive that love through forgiveness, where you don't have to hide it.
Yeah.
You don't have to earn it or perform for it. And you for sure don't have to return back to it.
Yeah. And I think that, and I like that because that also is one of the reasons I'm so open with my story and my past, with addiction and selling drugs and everything in my past. Because what I'm doing is I'm creating a level of accountability for myself. Because if everybody knows that, then I got a lot of people watching me to make sure that I don't
Yeah,
go back
man.
to that sort of
Yeah.
lifestyle.
And look, I just mentioned to you before we jumped on this, is that, dude, I'm walking out a season of very similar to the prodigal son. A lot of good things came from prison. I mean, so much so that I ended up starting a business based on what I learned and experienced in prison. But for me personally, the business became such a priority, and status became such a symbol that I wanted to achieve. For me personally, I was the guy trying to perform. I was a guy trying to outrun my past based on how much money I could make. And I didn't know it at the time, but it almost came again at a cost, where I almost lost my wife, almost lost my freedom. It became an idol. And so then this happened in 2023. So since 2023, I've been slowly walking out this life as a prodigal, because I walked away from God subconsciously, not intentionally, because one, business really, dude, it can be a beating,
Yeah.
like through the betrayal, through getting lied to, money stolen. Not to mention, when those things happen, are you going to go back to who you were in prison? Am I going to respond or react? Am I going to go back to being do some things to deal with the situation the way that I normally would,
Yeah.
or am I really going to walk out this thing that I say I
It's
believe
good.
now, Jesus? So,
It's easy to talk about it, but then when
bro,
crap hits the fan, you know what I mean?
yeah,
You know where my biggest struggle is that my driving. I can't lie, I get so mad, and I'm like, "What am I doing? Like, why am I so mad at that person?" Like, they're probably late to, like, their kids probably having they're probably having a kid born or something, like, and I'm over here.
likewise,
I
dude.
have to kind of, like, check myself, but that's just always a reminder that makes me realize, like, I'm not where I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I need to
Likewise,
do
dude.
better. I need to do better.
Likewise.
Alright, so let's get at so cool. Where we get out of prison yet? Are we out of prison yet?
So we're getting there. So I'm out of solitary now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had that encounter where it Sean, when I tell you it wrecked me, dude, it wrecked me. Everyone, I think, at some point can look back at their life and realize that I'm done. Like I'm so done. I can't live this life the way that I've been trying to live it anymore. And solitary confinement was for me. That was for me.
So, when you went back out to the unit, when you got sent back
Back
out
in
wherever you
Gen
went,
Pop.
did you calmed all the way down?
Yeah. I saw it. I dude, I experienced real freedom behind bars.
Yeah.
Behind bars. When I got back out and saw the sunlight and got access back to Gen Pop, dude, it was almost as if I was really already free. Yeah, it was, and when I say that, um, you learn to be grateful for the small things in
I
life,
bet
bro.
when you have everything taken from
Yeah,
you, like prison inside a prison.
yeah, getting access back to the day room, getting access to the chow hall, the food, the showers, getting to shower. I was on a unit where I didn't have to ask to shower.
Yeah,
So you learn to appreciate the small things, man. But the biggest thing that I appreciated was like, I'm forgiven.
that's good.
I'm forgiven now.
I like that. I do. I like that a lot because it's so true. Okay, so then let's get past it. We got to get through this.
Yep.
So
So,
we get out of prison, or
yep,
we're to the end of our sentence.
yep.
What were your plans for? Okay, I'm about to get out of prison. What were your plans?
Yeah. So I'll make it super quick because I saw where we're at in time. I so I had an aggravated charge. So
Yeah,
I had to at least do 3 years before I saw parole. So on year 4, year 5, they set me off. But by then, I'm already on a private unit, a private facility, which it's kind of called a pre-release unit. And they still set me off. You know why? Because they said I was manipulating the system, which was crazy. I won't expand. But if anyone has seen parole, I'm sure that they've gotten set off because they said you're manipulating the system. But what really was going on in my heart, I was already planning my vengeance to everyone that left me, my wife, and when I got my final set off, which by then I'm like, they can't keep me. I got 1 year left.
yeah.
Here's what's crazy is on that final set off, I went back to my cell, and every time I came up for parole, I'm praying, get me out, get me out, get me out. I'm ready,
Yeah.
I'm ready, I'm ready. Get me out, I'm ready.
Sometimes God's answer is no.
Exactly. But then when I got that final set off, I said, you know what? My prayer went from get me out. I'm like, keep me in here. Obviously, you're doing something in my heart. Just give me a position to have the heart
What
posture.
if you would have got out when you had all that vengeance on your
Oh,
mind?
dude, I probably went back in.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
Yeah.
God was like, "No, you're not ready."
So they reversed the answer, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when I prayed and had that moment with the Lord, 3 weeks later, ironically, I made trustee, which that's another thing that they told me I would never make. I made trustee, and shortly after I made trustee, at the unit I was on, they
That's cool.
were
They came back and said, "Hey,
they
we changed your
revert
mind. You can
they
get out."
reversed the answer, which was a God thing.
Yeah.
And then when I got out, I thought prison was hard, walking through divorce and reintegrating back into society. That was a whole different level of hard. And so this is kind of where it gets kind of cool, and I'll keep it quick and sweet. Obviously, I went to see my son. I immediately got plugged into a church, and
That's a side note. That's a huge reason why I was able to get out and stay out in the beginning was by finding a good local church.
likewise,
So I think that's really important. I want to just sit there for a second and just say, find a church when you get out, or find some sort of a support system like that. You
Yes.
know what I mean? It's really important to have those type of people and be open with them. You
And
don't have
be
to. It's okay to be honest and transparent with who you are,
and
where you're
consistent.
from, and yeah, and be consistent, because that's a huge. Be known. Like, let yourself be known. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. All right. So
So
sorry about that.
no, no, plugged into a church, stayed there, stayed consistent, began to be very vulnerable with
Was it Gateway?
it sure was, yeah.
Yeah, the Gateway has a great prison.
Ministry.
Did you actually find them while you were locked up? Were they doing anything at the prison you were
No,
at? Because they do a lot of good prison.
they didn't start doing all that until after I was out. But I had known about Gateway because at the time my parents were going to it while I was locked up. And so
That was really all the stuff with Pastor Morris has been really like
it's been tough.
yeah, because he was one of my favorite pastors. I'm not saying is. I don't even know how you navigate that, especially with our
Yeah.
past, right? But that's been a tough one.
Yeah, a lot of good came out of that time while I was at Gateway. I was even on staff there. And so again, I don't know how to squeeze this into just a few minutes, but got plugged into a church, ended up getting hired by Gateway, worked there for almost 2 years, uh, went through the divorce, but after the divorce, again, I'm just kind of giving you the elevator version. After the divorce, I asked my pastor, or the pastor of the church I was going, he was the campus pastor. I asked if I could, excuse me, if I could, I asked if anyone had proposed at a marriage conference, and he knew me well enough to know where I was going with that. And he said no. And I said, well, I want to ask for my wife's.
Oh, because you guys had gotten when you got out, you guys had started kind of dating again, or
For a
seeing each other?
minute, it got worse before it got better. The divorce got final. We were divorced for about a year, roughly, because I got out in 14, got divorced in 15, and got remarried in 16. But I remarried her through a flash mob proposal that Gateway helped coordinate.
That's cool.
Yeah, and
Did she
then
like it?
yeah, she said yes. So
Did she know it was coming?
no, she had no idea. She had no idea. And so she said yes. But here's the thing about trauma, man, and things that we go through in life that we don't deal with is the first few years of my marriage were difficult. I can joke about it now because we're way past that.
Because you still held resentments against what happened while you were in
Yeah.
prison? Yeah.
Yeah.
You should have let that go before you
Of
proposed.
course I did.
Needed some needed some
course.
counseling.
I didn't think it through, man.
But that's okay. But God allowed it to work that way. Like you're back and currently still married with her. Like that's awesome. So in the end, it works.
It did.
Yeah.
It all worked out, and we're back together, and been back together since 2016.
Yeah.
We've had our ups and downs, but any marriage that doesn't have its ups and downs, you continue to. Really, it's dying to self. So, but yeah.
Oh, that's. I don't want to touch on that. That's such a good point, and that's really that's the hardest part about marriage. We're all selfish individuals. Everybody. I don't care who it is. We're all selfish. You know what I mean? And as a man, especially, to learn how to just serve over being served, or to just, you know what I mean? Like to put someone else's.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do, especially when you're already doing a lot of stuff where as a man we feel justified. Oh, I'm paying the bills and I'm doing this and I'm raising the kids and I'm doing that. You know what I mean? You think that, but really, like in the way that God looks at it, like none of that matters.
No.
How are you serving your wife?
I know. Yeah.
And I'm definitely not. I definitely don't have that all figured out.
Me neither. You're good company.
Okay. Definitely don't have that all figured out, but it's a learning curve. And what we did is we made a commitment that, dude, we're gonna see this through to the end. So we might as well figure out how to make it better. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of having a miserable marriage? You might as well try to work on it to some extent.
Yes, I agree.
But I don't want to just, we're not done. Like, I want to hit on some business stuff because I want people who, guys to be able to take something away from the guys or girls that are watching this to be able to take. When you first got out, did you ever have a period of where you were like, I don't know what I'm going to do financially? Like, did you ever have to go through that, or not being able to find a job, or what would be your advice for that?
So it was very tempting to go back to what I was used to make life easier financially. So let me lead with that.
Yeah.
And I chose not to, because I did that the first time. And so that wasn't easy. But looking back at that time, I may not have had everything that I wanted. I had 3 meals. I had a roof over my head.
Yeah.
I had clothes. I had everything that I needed. So, my first job was, I was working at Gateway, dude. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That was the first job you got
That's the
was
first job. I'm trying to think, to keep myself honest. Yeah, I think that was the first job, was ministry. And I thought I was gonna, take it all away.
did you ever feel like did you ever have like any sort of like imposter syndrome about being in
Yes.
ministry? Because that's something I still struggle with to this
Yes.
day.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna go all the way with it, and become an official
Pastor, yeah.
pastor, but only to find out that we already kinda are. Any man that has given his life to Christ is a pastor of his own home.
What made you realize that that wasn't your calling? When you
Well,
saw the paychecks?
that
Sorry, that's
well, that's a real thing. You don't get into ministry to make money.
no.
Well, that was a part of it, but thankfully it was because they didn't give me the position. I definitely
Okay.
applied,
Okay.
and so I
Oh,
didn't,
that's another answer. You know,
yeah,
God has told you no a lot of times
He
that actually
has,
blessed you.
yeah, and so it wasn't until after we got married, which was in 2016, where I realized, like, dang, this is becoming real. We got
I
our
need to make some money
and make
too.
some money. We
Yeah.
had our second child on the way, a second son. So I was like, I got to make some money. So I transitioned back into the corporate place, and
How did you find roofing?
yeah, I was actually a store manager, an assistant store manager, being groomed and
Oh, you
prepped
told me this at the
to
clothing store, at
at
like a
the
men's
men's
wear.
warehouse. Yeah, I was an assistant store manager, where I was being kind of groomed and prepped to become eventually a store manager. But man, even though the money was great, dude, I wasn't able to go to church on Sundays, and
Retail is rough.
oh, again, I want to preface with it allowed us to provide for what we needed,
Yeah.
but my goodness, it wasn't it. And roofing organically, I sold a guy that was in the roofing space came in for a wedding, and he only came in for like a tie and like a vest, and ended up walking away with like a whole suit. And he's like, "Dude, you just sold me. Like, I needed this. This is good because this is what she wants." He said, "I'm gonna bring my groomsmen. I'm gonna like you're gonna do all of us." And when I finished all that and the wife was happy, he's like, "Dude, you got to come sell roofs for me." And eventually, I kind of caved, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna."
So that's freaking awesome, and I want to sit on that for a second. That's what I want everyone to watch who's watching this, or especially like the boys or guy. You know, how you do anything is how you do everything, and a
Go.
lot of opportunities will come into your life based on how you handle whatever the situation you're already in.
Yeah.
So he could have just moped around. He was already getting his paycheck. He probably wasn't even getting commission on those suits, but because he treated that guy with great customer service and he really did a good job, the opportunity, God then was able to put another opportunity in his life to bless him to make it to the next level. I see a lot of people miss out on stuff because they got this sourpuss attitude or this kind of like, woe is me kind of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I see them lose, like, change that. Like, I tell these kids all the time, like, you could be walking into a gas station, hold a door for someone, smile at them, say hello, and that could be
Yes.
that guy could be like, "Hey, hold on, young man. That was very nice of you. What do you do?" You know what I mean? And that dude could own 500 companies and could want you to come work for him. And then next thing you know, you're a manager. Now you're successful, all because you were just smiled at someone and said hi.
Your attitude, man.
Yeah, man. And it's like people, they don't, it's like sometimes I feel like they don't take that serious, but I don't miss any opportunity to greet someone politely and to love on them and to, because I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
I don't know where my next, maybe they need a roof. And I just happen to have an Alpha Roofing hat on, Alpha Storm Roofing. And they're like, "Hey, oh, what do you sell roof?" And I'm like, all because I smiled at them and opened the door.
You continue to go through the things that you go through until you grow the things that you grow through.
Yeah.
So yeah, attitude, heart posture
All that
is
stuff.
a huge thing. You're going to mope through it. God sees the details.
Yeah.
Small.
And what does the Bible say about work all your jobs like you're working unto the Lord,
Yes.
like, or whatever, do all your work as if you're working unto the Lord. That can change. I don't care if you sweep the bathrooms up somewhere. If you do it to the best of your ability, to like God's going to see that and he's going to present better opportunities for us.
So, yeah.
But anyways, so we're still not done. Now, so we get to, and now, so you didn't even talk about, so he starts selling roofs for this guy that he met at Men's Warehouse. Speaking of, I want to take all the boys to, you still have any connections there? I want to take all the boys to,
I think
they used to do this like buy one, get one suit free type ordeal. Or
you know what? Give me a call offline.
because they used to have different specials and really good deals. Because I have all the boys there. It's a nonprofit, 501c3. I wonder if they would like donate or give me a discount or something.
Give me a call. I do know someone that
I want to see if I could get all these boys a suit for the graduation. And now I just got lost my train. Okay, so then how long were you selling roofs for this guy before you said, okay, I can do this myself?
So here's what's a coincidence is that I didn't end up going selling roofs for him.
Oh,
You
okay.
know,
And put the thought in your mind
it
now?
did, yeah. You know, cause look, man, roofing's great, but if you're not careful, the Bible says that bad company corrupts good character. Okay,
That's good.
the dude made lots of money. Okay, but the more closer I got to him in proximity, I'm hardwired. If I'm close to someone still dipping into the wrong things in life, I'm going to end up following back into
Oh,
that same pattern.
me too. I have to be very careful about who I associate with.
I was like, "Ugh." So I ended up going in and working for a different company, and I wasn't there. So I didn't work. You know, roofing in Texas is way different versus roofing in other states. You could close your eyes and throw a rock and hit a roofing company.
Yeah,
It's
there's 10,000 roofing
and
companies.
so and it's gotten obviously there's much more, many more today versus whenever
Yeah.
I got into it. So I didn't I didn't stay in roofing long working for someone else, not because I was looking for a way out to start my own thing. I just knew the further I climbed the corporate ladder from sales to, um, getting to a point where I realized like there's just certain things that I wanted to do differently.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I wanted to go out on my own. But I also had a like everyone can only see so much until they take a deep dive and start their own thing. Not and the Bible says to make your yes yes, your no no. Understand the cost of what you're saying yes to. And so running a business is it's come with its own different challenges. And even more so, I'd say it's even um, provoked me to be more intentional about my personal development.
Oh, that's good. You have to continue that's one of my 5 keys to success in this book is always you have to continue
Have to,
in self-development. Like
non-negotiable.
you can't you're not there. You're never going to be there. Like there's always something better. Whether it could just be your nutrition and fitness. Like but there's always that next level that we need to be working on.
Non-negotiables, man.
Yeah, that's one of these. Um I'm still not done. I do want to ask you one question real quick that we ask everybody on the show,
Mhm.
right? And I just want to ask this: if you could go back and talk to Alex Loredo, little Alex at 16 years old, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice, or if you could tell yourself anything at 16 years old, what would it be?
It's so funny you asked that. I actually heard you ask this question on one of the podcasts or episodes that you recorded. So I wanted to be
So
intentional.
you had it
I
planned?
did.
That's
Well,
cool.
and here's why. It's because I didn't want it to be scripted, but I wanted to be as raw and uncut and vulnerable for the guys that are going to listen to this part of the podcast.
That's good. That's
Because
good.
from behind the walls, um, I think everyone at some point is so eager to know if there's hope
Yeah,
on the other side
that's good.
of where they're at, but more so the things that they're listening to through this podcast. So um, just bear with me.
You're good.
So the what I wrote down, if I were talking to the 16-year-old version of myself, is that I said that you are not as tough as you think you are, and you are not as lost as you feel. You are trying to become a man without letting God follow you first. The path is going to cost you more than you understand right now. Slow down, tell the truth. Nothing that is hidden you can't. If it's hidden, you can't heal. Choose better voices, which in other words, choose the people you surround yourself with, and let God deal with what is broken before your brokenness starts making decisions for you.
That's good.
Stop trying to prove you're a man to people who cannot help you become one. I cannot go back and rescue that 16-year-old version of me, but if I can tell the truth now, so maybe another young man does not have to learn it the way that I did.
That's good. That's really good. You said a few really good things in there. Watch who you associate with. Watch who you let speak into your life.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove yourself to everybody. Being a tough guy is not important. There's so many really good lessons in that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's
Yes.
really good.
Yeah.
Um, before we wrap this up, there's a couple things that I want to say. One is again, I told you guys before the book that I wrote. It makes me feel really awkward saying this or doing this. Like this is not my thing, right? But the book that I wrote is out on Amazon at Forgiven AF. Search it. If you have your people, send it to you, or if you want to write me, I'll send it to you. I'm not tripping on the cost, whatever. If you want to, all the money that came off this book, and to be honest, we had a really good opening week. I'm kind of blown away by how many of these actually sold. We were at number 6 in bestsellers for a couple days. It slowly crept back down out of that, but but I felt like that was a good run for the book. So really proud of that. Thank you to all the people that watched this and did buy it. Um, but again, Amazon forgiven AF. But um, last thing I need to finish up with is if you're getting out soon or you know anybody getting out soon and they're like kind of worried about where they're going to go or what they're going to do when they get out, um, one of our sponsors for the show, but that's irrelevant. I would actually say this anyway, um, is a recovery house or like a sober living house that like takes guys out of prison, and it's called Hope is Alive. The website is Hope is Alive or HIA.net, hopeisalive.net. And man, it's incredible. These houses are mansions. They buy these beautiful homes. The one here in Arlington is freaking beautiful. It's like a 6,000 square foot home with a big pool. It reminds me more of a frat house. But the guys are living for Jesus. They do like a lot of like sober living stuff, a lot of sobriety stuff. They help you find jobs. They help you with financial plans. Like it's freaking awesome for someone who doesn't know what they're going to do getting out of prison. And I highly recommend it. So if you either write me or you can write them or you can request an application on the website, HIA.net or hopeisalive.net. And I highly recommend this program. I'm not just saying that because they look out for us. Also, if you want to write me, the address is 8001 8001 Valcasey, VALCASI, Valcasey Drive, Suite 131. And that's Arlington, Texas, 76001. Like y'all know, I show you this all the time. These These are all letters that I haven't read them all yet, but dude, like I love y'all's letters. I read them all. I don't get a chance to respond to them all, but I wish that I could find a better way to do it. I just don't want to send you some blank template fake thing that says like, "Hey, I got your letter." So there's a lot of guilt in that these unanswered letters, to be honest with you. So I'm going to try to figure out some sort of structure for that. But man, that's really it. Alex, thank you, bro, for doing this with
Thanks
me.
for having me, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think you gave a lot of wisdom. I think people are going to be blessed to really listen to this. And remember, if you're watching this, that you're loved and you're forgiven, and there's nothing you can do about it. Peace.